Thank you very much. This program each week with Chuck Malamut, presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. Brother Chuck, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Harry. How are you today?
Great to see you. I've been thinking about you a lot. Now, let me start with something that's not financial world, because, and again, fully disclosed here is the fact, for entertainment purposes only, for many years, we have played a football pool together. Very challenging because you have to be able to predict not only winners but point spreads. So maybe you have the losing team, but the points made you pick that team, and it worked, or vice versa. So it's very challenging. It is especially challenging in the first week, because from year to year, new teams and its strength of schedule, it's just teams get better, other teams get worse. It's always very challenging in the first week of a new season, and I want to congratulate Brother Bill Malamut, the president, for being our champion in week one. He is picking up exactly where he left off last year. We're going into the final week of last year. Bill was just one game back and could have won the whole darn thing. So congratulations, Chuck, to Brother Bill Malamut.
Congratulations to Bill and Harry. I think if I was trying, we have a lot of players, as you know, and it takes a while to kind of scroll through the results.
So far down?
Yeah.
Well, wait just a second now. I'll tell you what. I'm actually proud of how I turned out, 8-8. So I was even above the middle of the pack.
Maybe I looked earlier.
You looked early. Here was the truth. I was 2-8. It was so funny. My son-in-law and my daughter were in the living room. I said, I really think I had a good first half. Let me see how I did. I had lost like the first 6 games. Then I won a couple. Then I lost 2 more. I was 2-8. But Chuck, I'm very proud to announce I ended 6-0, and I ended the week at a respectable 8-8. Now I understand, not as good as your 10-6. Not as good as Bill Malamut's championship win of 11-5, but I felt like I really escaped a devastating week. Look, when I was looking at Brother Don with 2 games left, he was at 4-10. So I felt pretty good at 8-8, Chuck.
Congratulations,
Thank
Harry.
You. Yeah, I felt like I had pulled something off. So congratulations to Billy, and I just wanted to get that in there. Also, Chuck, if I could go completely off, because you do such a nice outline, if I could go completely off your script, the power of a Federal Reserve Board member and what they say. And I think it's kind of unusual for it not to be the chair of the board. That's usually, it's kind of like a Board of Education, the chair speaks, but a female member, forgive me for not remembering her name, Chuck, but I hold her wholly accountable for the Dow picking up hundreds of points and the markets having a really good day, because she threw a lot of rain, a whole bucket at least of cold water, on any rate increase.
Well, Harry, as a result, you had a Fed governor on Friday. And, let's take a step back here for a second. As we said for the last several weeks together, there was virtually no volatility in the equity markets, and we, for a rolling 30-day period of time. And we had not seen that for virtually 20 years. Now, all of a sudden, you turn the calendar into September, right after Labor Day, and then all of a sudden, look what you have. I mean, the volatility has returned. On Friday, for instance, there was it was an awful day. The Dow was down, almost 400 points, and for the week, the S&P was down about 2.5%. So we took a lot out of the yearly returns, cumulative yearly returns. As an example, Harry, the S&P going into yesterday, year to date, was up about 5.7%. So that includes the 2.5% loss that we had for the week before. So you think about it, we took a third basically away all the heavy lifting that was done, over the course of the first 9 months of the year. But so what happened on Friday? Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren hinted at a potential rate hike sooner than most investors expected, because we kind of kiddingly said that
that I'm eating pizza.
Yeah, I think you might be eating pizza, but I'm going to.
Yes.
I mean, it's now gone from a 40% probability to 25% probability that they will make a move in September, but there will be a move in December.
So once again, there's a 75% probability that your brother Harry will be eating pizza that brother Chuck will be paying for.
So you can pick you can pick where
yes.
you want to go.
Yes.
But I will.
We're going to go to Capri Pizza,
and I will promise you, it's not going to be anything extravagant. It's going to be just a plain pizza.
Do you remember? I think it was Billy paying
no
off.
Toppings.
Anybody that's listening right now knows that I win pizzas. Eric, are you listening? I won so many pizzas off Eric that I can't even count them. I won a pizza off brother Bill Malamut. Remember when we sent the at the scene of the crime at Capri, we sent you the picture to your office?
I didn't get the invite.
Yeah,
but
Chuck says, "How come I'm not there?"
That's all right. I mean, maybe Bill had a tough month. He was on a budget or something.
Oh, we were so happy.
Big
smiles.
But back to Friday. So what happened was Rosengren made his statement, which was on top of the fact that Mario Draghi on Thursday basically said they're not going to add to the monetary stimulus. So that free, easy money, that sugar high, so to speak, wasn't going to potentially happen to the market. So, the U.S. equities on Friday started in, obviously in negative territory yesterday. And what was very, very interesting, as you mentioned earlier, one of the chairpersons, Leah Brannard, stressed the need, and you put one word in here, prudence, in considering further policy tightening. So, with that being said, the markets righted themselves. We finished up significantly higher. We did not, recover all the losses from Friday. We're back again today, Harry, with a fair amount of volatility, with Dow futures down about 100 plus points. But this is not unexpected. I think the markets lulled a lot of investors to sleep, during the month of August, and now with everything that we are looking at, including that Tuesday in November that you and Kirk just. I can't even. I don't even want to talk about it because you spend a lot of time chatting about it. But the fact of the matter is that the market is looking at everything that is happening. So now the Fed, people, the Fed presidents, the representatives from the various regions in the country, where it's sort of like a quarterly earnings where you're now in a quiet period. I believe that was the last statement that could have been made. So nothing will you will hear nothing from the Fed until the I believe it's the 21st, when they come back and say, okay, here's what we decided to do. And
then you will hear them say they've decided to do nothing. They will have decided to leave interest rates as they are. Then they will put ... let Harry eat pizza now. That's how it's going to end. Chuck, we're going to get our first break in. Chuck, I want you to keep your headset on for just a quick moment, and I want to. This is a tease for a very cool interview that we're going to be doing on Wednesday, September 28th. So not this upcoming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. And see if you know this song, Chuck.
Please be a friend of ours.
It's going to take just a moment. Here we go. The year was 1973. Being a music aficionado I knew it just at the few bars.
He was on his way home from Candletop. Been 2 weeks gone and he thought he'd stop at Webb's and have him a drink.
Now, Chuck, you're going to tell me you don't know this song?
I remember the song, but I'll take a pass, Harry.
All right, I'm going to let it play for just a couple seconds longer.
And he said, hi, what's doing? Whoa, said, sit down, I've got some bad news, it's gonna hurt. Said, I'm your best friend and you know that's right, but your young bride ain't ain't home tonight. Since you've been gone, she's been seeing that Amos boy said.
Margie knows this. Don knows this.
I don't know, Harry. All the Hurleys know it. I'll take a pass. Okay, so
give me just a second. Just take a second.
With her myself.
Here we go.
That's a night that the lights went out in Georgia.
Okay, Chuck?
Thank you, Harry.
The night the lights went out in Georgia. Now here's the other part of the trivia. So many people know the song. Chuck knows the song. He just needed the kicker there to get it. Do you remember who performs that song?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay. Do you remember a very funny woman that was a sidekick to Carol Burnett by the name of Vicki Lawrence?
Yes.
And she was in another show, Mama or whatever it was called. That's Mama or Mama, whatever. Vicki Lawrence, unbeknownst to many, many people, is the singer of that hit song. And she will be right here on Hurley in the Morning on Wednesday, September 28th at 7:50 until 8 o'clock in the morning. And we've interviewed her in the past. She's an absolute delight. That's coming up in the near future. Back with Chuck Malamut in 2 minutes. All right, Chuck, I jumped in with the Fed because I was just so impressed with that gentle lady from the Fed that made it possible for me to eat free pizza, so I wanted to bring that up first. I know that you were going to do your typical market update. Time is yours. Free pizza is mine. Time is yours.
Yeah, so Harry, again, sort of take a step back as to what happened last week. And so now you think about the lack of volatility that we've had, the decision that was made going into the weekend with Draghi not to expand the bond buying program, and a growing sense that the Fed was going to, or it will be going to, increase rates in the latter part of this year. Created that sell-off that we had. The other thing that's happened here, Harry, when you get into a very, very low interest rate environment, a lot of individuals, institutional investors, hedge funds, they're always looking at a way to increase their rates of return, and they're stretching for yield. And so what happens is, particularly in a lot of hedge funds, what they do is they go out and buy on leverage, and you started to see that high leverage sort of take its toll as we got into Friday. There was selling picked up. As what happens is when you buy on leverage, Harry, if the markets work against you, you have an obligation to cover your positions or come with cash, to do so. So, so with that, along with the confusion that we've had, with Draghi, we've had on Friday, and then follow through on Monday. As a result of that, there's some more leverage that probably needs to be taken out of the system. So don't be at all surprised, at least on a short-term basis, if you continue to see some weakness in the equity markets and ultimately, some more volatility. It wouldn't surprise me. So we will sit here and wait until the 21st to understand what the Fed is going to do. And let's assume for a minute you're right and I buy you pizza, but more importantly,
I am.
What will the comments be as far as potentially looking into the future, that being the December meeting?
Well, I've always said that there will be a rate increase before the end of the year. At least I felt that way, but I always knew it would be after the election. Just like the FBI director says, I'm not political, but he turns out documents on the afternoon of the Friday before Labor Day. But I'm not political. We're the FBI. We're never political. But yet it's the most political thing you can do. And just like the Feds, they're not political either. Everything is political. That's why I'm happy that while your show is not political, you have been very intellectually honest in terms of geopolitical reality. So if there's going to be a rate increase in 2016, it was always going to be after November 8th. There was no doubt ever in my mind, because I've been doing this now in my 26th year. I know how it works. And the first time that would be different would be the first time that we would be wrong on that point. That's why my pizza bet was in the bag. Now, this August ISM, that's manufacturing, right, Chuck?
Yeah, it's
but there's manufacturing, and then there's ISM
so
non-manufacturing.
this is
right?
the Institute for Supply Management readings. That's what it's referred to. In August, when it was reported, there were more concerns about growth or the lack of growth. So you think about, you have these ongoing conflicting comments that come and reports that come. So the ISM manufacturing and service indices came in worse than expected last month, and while we think that overall economic growth will accelerate as we get into the end of the year, you have this ongoing negative trend with business confidence. When you talk with our clients, when you talk with business owners, and Harry, you do it all the time as well. I mean, perfect case in point is you look at your world, you look at advertising. Are you able to create more revenue by having a larger amount of advertising revenue? And I wouldn't be at all surprised if what you see in not so much your show, but maybe just the overall industry, it might be somewhat soft right now because the confidence levels or lack of confidence levels that we have, just generally speaking, within the business environment. As we talk with our clients, I mean, obviously their concerns are different in as much that they're just confused with the overall noise that we hear from the market. And what we oftentimes remind our clients and our prospective clients and your listeners is that it is noise. Harry, I can't invest my money now because, and then 3 weeks later, I can't invest my money because, and you're always going to have the because. So and
that's because people are a little gun shy right now.
Well, no, I think you're always going to have noise. There's no doubt about it. What we have witnessed over the last several years is the ongoing negative news reporting, particularly about what we do all day long. The equity and the fixed income markets, to cause a considerable amount of concern with respect to investors, and the fact that the average retail investor has left the market.
Chuck, let me throw a tough question at you, because I agree with the comment that you made, and I feel very blessed that I've been sort of shielded from it, and I think it's the unique nature of my brand that has insulated me from what you said that was completely accurate, and I know you knew it was accurate when you said it. I think the media has sort of laid a smackdown on your industry because of the way that they relentlessly, 24/7, grab by the throat the consumer, and things are all different now in the minds of the consumer, because I think the consumer used to just not see and hear so much noise, and they're so wrong most of the time that it is amazing how much of a difference they make for how wrong they typically are. But do you think there's any credibility to that statement that the media and their 24/7 nonstop drumbeat on your world has had an effect?
Oh, Harry, absolutely. And when
it's terrible what they do.
When you're watching and you see breaking news,
yeah.
And I'll leave the station. We all know what station it is, and worst day ever since July of last year or whatever it may be. It's like, all right, enough. You should really view that as an opportunity, especially if you are sitting with cash that you're looking to deploy. And if you are a long-term investor, it's basically a blip on the screen. It's nothing more.
You
than
raised
that.
such a good point, and that's where I think a Neil Cavuto, for example, doesn't go overheated. And you used to hear talk like a buying opportunity is at hand, as opposed to the worst possible dire graphics that they could make something look as bad as it could. It's sort of like the OJ sort of demarcation line that I talk about. Everything in the media changed at that point. It's very, very different. And I think what people have to do, and this is why having you, Chuck, as their financial advisor at the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley, in Northfield at 609-383-2010 for all of your financial needs. Why I think it's so important, because you're able to have those professional, sobering conversations with people where you understand that maybe somebody is saving right now for somebody that's going to school in 18 years or 19 years, or you're doing something with someone that's planning for 30, 40 years from now. And that sort of silly headline that was misleading at best really doesn't have any impact in some long-range goal that you have set in your plan. So I think that is probably a fair comment.
It's a very, 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 very fair comment. Without the plan, it doesn't matter what you own. And interesting as we have these discussions with our clients, I think a lot. Obviously the day trading that we worked through a long time ago has subsided, and now, Harry, for the most part, we have investors. We don't have traders.
We're going to take our bottom of the hour break. One more power segment with Chuck Malamut straight ahead. And again, to reach Chuck and his team, 609-383-2010. 609-383-2010. I was there yesterday. I was making a deposit at Morgan Stanley, and big believer in the brand and of course, in Chuck and his team. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away. Much more with Chuck Malamut. This portion of our program also brought to us by Congress Hall, celebrating their 200th birthday, literally America's oldest seaside resort. They opened up in 1816. Some of the hot dates where you can save an extra 10% off of the regular rack rate that you will see either on the website at congresshall.com, or if you call one of the reservation professionals toll free at 888-944, and then the year the Congress Hall opened, 1816. 888-944-1816 for the month of September. Tomorrow night, the 21st of September. Tomorrow's the 14th. The 22nd of September, so you could plan a two-day stay. They're not always consecutive dates. And the 27th, extra 10% off. Also, go to congresshall.com, and you can enter to win one of 200 overnight stays at Congress Hall. It's called the Bicentennial Sweepstakes, and it's a great opportunity to have a getaway. They have great specials. The accommodations are magnificent. The resort life is so nice there. Great dining, the wonderful sea spa for weddings, events, meetings. They have it all at Congress Hall on Beach Avenue at 200 Congress Place. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This hour, this portion of Early in the Morning brought to us by Unite Here Local 54, South Jersey's biggest and best union. When you stay at an Atlantic City casino hotel, all of the critical hotel service classifications that can literally make or break your next stay. Chuck Malamut could tell you this with his Cornell Management Hotel degree. They're skillfully handled by a Unite Here Local 54 professional. Let me name just a few. Your professional door staff, bell staff, public area environmental services professionals, your vital guest room attendant that both prepares your room before your arrival and freshens and maintains it during your stay. All are Unite Here Local 54 employees. But that's not all. When you dine, whether it's in your room or you dine at any of the hotel and casino restaurants of your choice, the many classifications in food and beverage are also Unite Here Local 54 professionals. Unite Here Local 54 employees are vital to you enjoying time away while either on vacation or business. Unite Here Local 54 is South Jersey's biggest and best union. And the disclaimer, we don't talk politics during Chuck's program, but we do talk geopolitical issues and also how a change in leadership can literally change markets. Chuck, I read reports when the secretary, the Democratic nominee, had her health episode. There were concerns about financial markets. And then, obviously, as you get closer to an election, and if it looks like it's tipping one way, markets get affected. And then, of course, the actual result of the election can affect markets. So we know this much, Chuck, and there's nothing political about this statement. We will have a change in leadership. It's just a matter of who it will be. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so, Harry, look, we've talked about previously that the markets, generally speaking, are in favor of the Democrat versus the Republican because, I guess, of the stability, moving forward. But, regardless of who wins, there has been a lot of discussion regarding tax reform about repatriated earnings. We've always talked about, there's been so much discussion about bring the money back, bring it back to the U.S. And so we're of the opinion that something will happen there. And it's likely that any potential new tax revenue that's created could very well be used, to help take care of the ever declining infrastructure that we have throughout our country. I mean, you think about, what has happened to the infrastructure within the U.S.
It's disgusting. You're talking about roads and bridges and things like that. We have dilapidated bridges. I mean, we have a real serious need to reinvest in infrastructure. And, of course, a lot of the states, they're patching roads that they used to replace and do full cut, and put new roads over. Now they're putting hot patches and cold patches, and sometimes they just put like a little bit of blacktop and tamp it down.
Just travel now, Shore Road south, so to speak, and you get in that. There's a stretch trying somewhere around Pleasantville to Northfield area. It's awful.
Yeah, holes all over the place.
They patched.
Yeah,
and you have to, you really got to try to maneuver your vehicle so so you don't take a lot of on a lot of additional damage.
Yeah.
But so that's where we think we go with respect to tax reform, so to speak. I mean, there's all kinds of discussion about you elect the Democrat, you elect the Republican. Here's what's going to happen, with your individual tax rates, but.
Are the markets also being real in terms of understanding that we're almost – I mean, I can't say this for sure, but unless something dramatically changes, we're going to have split government. So, you can say the markets, want Democrats, but that's not what they're going to get. They're going to get split government.
No, I think the markets recognize there will be split government, but the concern was that, the leader – there'd be more stability. Yeah. The markets at least think with a Democrat versus the Republican.
And I know you don't get political on your show, but I don't even understand that. I don't know who these people are that make these statements, because what would be stable about that? I don't understand it, actually. But I guess
it's the fear of the known versus the fear of the unknown.
Okay, I can buy that. Which really means that they would rather take somebody they know that's not as good for markets as somebody that they don't know that would be more of a free market person. So it's just kind of interesting to me. I get it. It's institutional. It's easier. It's the sort of the tradition of how this stuff goes. But I like to look into things a little deeper than that. But I'm looking at a November 8th, where right now it is too close to call in terms of who will be leading the executive branch. I will all but guarantee you that the House of Representatives cannot change hands. There is no math that can make that possible. In fact, I don't think the Democrats can pick up more than 15 seats. They're going to still trail in the People's House, and the Senate is too close to call right now.
Time will tell, Harry. I think that countdown clock.
Time will tell, but if our markets are being honest, though, and the analysts are being honest, since there's almost zero chance that the House will turn over, and since all spending measures originate in the House, I would think our financial markets would pay attention to the fact that at the very least we will have split government unless Republicans sweep all three branches, and then it will be one-party governance. There's not a scenario where the other side could have control of all three branches. But I do agree, though, there is a disproportionate amount of attention paid to who is the president.
No doubt about that. You're 100% correct.
So are we going to talk about equity markets?
Well, Harry, look, as we look at what happened over the last several days, you're starting to see somewhat of a movement in yields, particularly global bond yields, have trended higher, over the last 6 to 8 weeks. We've had obviously some decent economic growth, not great, a little bit of inflation, this ongoing discussion about the Fed, what they're going to do as far as, tightening. And you think about it, can the markets handle one rate increase a year. We had one last December. So, I think the markets can handle 25 basis points, a year later.
Why don't they do it then? Because they're political. That's why.
So you also have uncertainty. See, I'm just going to roll right through that, Harry.
I know.
So you also have uncertainty about what we talked about before with the ECB and Draghi, and what's happening in Japan, with their policies, and obviously signals about some fiscal stimulus here in the U.S., the U.K., Germany, France, and elsewhere. So having said all that, it looks as if we will go through a little bit of volatility here. Global growth has improved ever so slightly. So as a result of that, we're pretty confident, Harry, that even though the Fed is probably on track to make a move before year end, we're pretty constructive with respect to equities. We hear oftentimes, market's too high, P/E ratios are too high. There's not a lot of places to go. You have to obviously be careful, but I think that there's so much negativity, as we chatted about a few minutes ago, with respect to the media. It scares off so many people, and we continue to have a market that just is totally disrespected. And you think about it with the Rodney Dangerfield. What movie was that, Harry?
Back to School, Caddyshack.
Where he gets he's standing there and.
His routine in his stand-up, he always said, "I get no respect. I get no respect."
So we're kind of at that, that's still that Rodney Dangerfield, market. And I think what investors and listeners need to recognize is the fact that, again, getting outside of where we are currently, our area, there's a lot of good things happening within our country, and there'll be a lot, I think, better things happening once we clear through the next several months and get some direction.
There's a definitive answer that you know all too well, and you've shared it with your listeners in past episodes. But I want you to tell the listeners, why do you believe the Fed is so adamant to? Because we know we've been in a zero, almost 0% rate environment for a decade. Why are they so adamant to wanting to get into a modest rate increase environment?
Well, Harry, look, we have lived through for the last several years very, very low interest rates, and the fact of the matter is it's very abnormal to what the markets are accustomed to, and particularly in the financial industry, the banks typically make money on the lending side, and more so on the asset management side. So what happens is, with rates near zero, the margins are very, very thin, and as a result of that, it's a struggle, as a lender to go out there and be productive and be profitable. So, having said that, there's nothing wrong with increasing interest rates, Harry, as long as what I oftentimes think about when we make those statements is, remember back in the days with Greenspan, and we look at the chart, it was sort of like a staircase.
How about this, though? You say there's nothing wrong with increasing interest rates, which I'm going to totally agree with you. In a healthy environment, nothing wrong with it. But the byproduct of that is people, and this is a general statement, tell me if you agree, you will have a higher interest rate if you're looking to borrow. Your credit card rates will follow and go up, sort of commensurate. And yet, on the yield side, we will increase where people have had, very difficult times with, the safe instruments, no risk instruments of having almost no yield. That will go up. Is that basically a simplistic way of looking at what rate increases mean?
I think that's fine. I think it's,
and of course, it guards against inflation.
It does, and we need to get back into that environment. That's not. I'm not proposing, Harry, that we move 400 basis points. Right. I think obviously the market is nowhere, can't handle that, and I think you would have complete hysteria. But the fact of the matter is that things have improved. somewhat, in our country over the last several years. The one thing that we chatted about, earlier in the conversation, what is holding us back is the fact, what business owners are thinking about, and the fact that they're very, very concerned about our future. So I'm thinking, Harry, that as we work through the next couple months, we're going to have a little more definition as to where we're going and clarification, and ultimately I think that should put investors somewhat at ease.
Chuck, as always, outstanding, best in the business. Chuck Malamut, for all of your financial planning needs, turn to the Malamut Group, led by Managing Director Chuck Malamut. They're in Northfield, right right nearby Broadcast Center. And the phone number, 609-383-2010. That's 609-383-2010. The program that you've listened to is presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, until we meet again in 1 week.
Harry, thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You do the same, sir. 45 minutes past the hour. It's our only wide open forum left in today's program, and it begins right now, or I should say when we come back in just a few minutes.